Eric Rassbach, Deputy General Counsel of the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, and they have represented plaintiffs in cases involving the contraceptive issue. And Eric, welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me on, Steve.
Well, it's my pleasure. So tell us what the government said on Friday in their wonderful compromise that they think it is, and tell us what you say in response to that.
Well, they issued what's called the final rule, which they're required to do under administrative law to finalize a rule after getting notice and comment. So they propose a rule, get comments from everybody. In this case, a lot of comments really complaining vociferously about it, and then they issued the final rule. And they said this balances the interests of women and the interests of religious organizations, but frankly, there's just not much balancing going on. The religious interest has essentially been put to one side, and wherever that is going to be an issue for an organization, it will be trumped by the administration's interest in making sure that every employer in the country pays for its employees' contraceptives, including the morning after pill and the week after pill.
Right. So basically, women under this rule, this final rule, are to have access to contraceptives without any premium, deductible, copayment, or other fees. And am I correct that some judges who have waited to weigh in on the cases that have been filed against this plan have been waiting for this final rule? If that is the case, how do you think this might affect those judges?
Well, so there's two kinds of cases. One case involves the nonprofit organizations like a religious college, religious university, World Vision, different kind of relief organizations. The other one would be the for-profit religious businesses. So these are businesses often owned by a single family that run it in accordance with religious principles. And the religious nonprofit cases are the ones that are affected by the rule that came yesterday. The government isn't even making any accommodation or pretend accommodation for-profit businesses. So those cases have been racing ahead, and they're already at the federal courts of appeals. And we actually won one of those cases on behalf of our client, Hobby Lobby, on Thursday, right before the rule came out.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with the Hobby Lobby case. I wasn't aware that a decision came down.
Yeah. So the 10th Circuit reversed the district court judge, which had ruled against our client, and sent it back down for a hearing on a couple of remaining injunction factors that the district court had not reached. But on the main issues, whether this constituted a substantial burden on religious exercise or whether it constituted irreparable harm, which means it's a really bad injury to our client, the court said on both of those factors that it was.
All right, so we're talking to Eric Rassbach, Deputy General Counsel of the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So where do we go from here? Now you got the final rule. Obviously, the final rule isn't what you were looking for, and isn't what a lot of people who are affected by this were looking for. So it's to the courts, correct? I mean, it's all going to be decided in the courts.
I think you're right. I mean, essentially, the administration said we'll take our chances in court, and so what will happen is a number of the cases that got dismissed as unripe, which is a lawyer way of saying too early, they're not going to be too early anymore, and they'll be refiled by those same plaintiffs. And then I think you might also see some plaintiffs come in who had been waiting on the sidelines to see what the government would do and whether it really would follow through on a sort of promise of a compromise. Since it hasn't, some of them are going to feel compelled to file suit as well. So I think we're going to be off to the races with litigation.
And this is a battle that will probably go on long beyond the implementation of this directive under Obamacare, right?
Well, I think it's going to get decided by the United States Supreme Court eventually, unless all of the lower courts agree with the plaintiffs in the case, which I think is unlikely. Over so many different parts of the country. I think it's going to end up at the United States Supreme Court, and it could even end up there next year.
Gotcha. All right, Eric, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'm sure we'll speak again. Eric Rassbach.